King Liam stood up abruptly. Without looking at his daughter, he addressed the councilmen. Today we are here to address the crimes of Ebony Antoinette Firestorm, Princess of Alarion. We have heard the testimony of the noblemen that were at the ball last night. We have heard Davin confess to his felonious crimes, and the involvement of the princess with those same crimes. Last, we have heard the testimony of Princess Ebony's nanny, the servant Elsie, who spoke of the princess's cruelty against those in subjection to her. Finally, looking at his daughter, the king asked, "Do you need to hear the testimony of those who have spoken against you?" "No, father, but I—" Princess Ebony was interrupted by her father. "You will not address me as father," he yelled. "You will address me as King Liam." Queen Briette winced as she stared at the wall, her husband's voice breaking into her concentration. She quickly recomposed herself. Hiding herself in her mind with her dragon, she tuned out the events playing out in front of her. Princess Ebony gasped. Her father had never yelled at her like that before, nor had he ever insisted that she call him King Liam. In the midst of the drama, Princess Ebony missed the fact that Nova had hidden herself from Ebony again for a few minutes. The king straightened his shirt before continuing, hiding how upset he was about losing control in front of the councilmen and the nobles who were now standing inside the door at the back of the throne room. "Lord Lyndon, how do the councilmen charge Princess Ebony for the crimes against Alarion?" Lord Lyndon, who was standing on the right side of Princess Ebony, stepped closer to the steps and the king. He reached down and took a small scroll from his pants pocket. He rolled out the scroll before him. The scroll stretched as far as his arms allowed. Lord Lyndon cleared his throat before he began reading. "On this day before the great king of Alarion, King Liam Bynum Firestorm, I read the charges brought against Princess Ebony Antoinette Firestorm, Princess of Alarion. The charges are as follows. First, the princess is charged with abuse of power and cruelty against those working in the castle. The second charge, Princess Ebony, is charged with blackmail against Davin of the House of Taru. The third charge, Princess Ebony, is charged with assaulting a subject of Alarion and a soldier in the king's army. The fourth charge," Lord Lyndon paused for effect, "Princess Ebony Antoinette Firestorm, the Princess of Alarion, is charged with acts of treason against Alarion because of the following actions. She assaulted several invited dignitaries in such a manner that could have resulted in declared war against Alarion. The dignitaries who were physically and mentally assaulted were Prince Tai of Arcana, Prince Adrian of Cipher, and Prince Duro of the Green Isles. There was also an attempted assault on Prince Grayson of Peroria." Addressing Princess Ebony, Lord Lyndon stated, "What say you to these charges in defense of yourself?" In shock, Princess Ebony blurted out, "Where are the accusing princes? I have the right to speak to those who witnessed and have spoken against me." "The only ones here are Davin and Elsie." Lord Lyndon looked at her sourly. "They are not here. All have left the castle already, except for the one who granted his boon to be in your service, until you are sentenced." Lord Lyndon cleared his throat. "Menadin, please come forward, and read the receipt of the accounts that were satisfied between the princes and King Liam." The king's chief accountant stepped forward from the throne of King Liam, where he had been waiting in case he was to be called to read the receipts from the morning meeting King Liam had with the princes. He stretched out a small scroll. Concerning Prince Tai of Arcana, a national debt of 2 million silver pieces had been forgiven by Alarion. Prince Duro asked for a better price for timber the Green Isles buys from Alarion. The Green Isles will now receive 20% more timber for 2 years for the same price the Green Isles has been paying currently. Prince Idris of Dragos received 60,000 gold pieces and 100,000 silver pieces. Menadin rolled up the scroll and walked back out of sight behind King Liam. Lord Lyndon cleared his throat again loudly. "These are the monies that were paid in restitution and given to the princes for satisfaction that they will not declare war against Alarion because of the injury and insults that the princess inflicted on said princes. This is all the evidence that was needed by this council to charge you with treason. This is all the witness you will be allowed to see on this particular charge. All other witnesses on all other charges stand before you or behind you." The snickering of the men behind Princess Ebony barely registered in her brain. A charge of treason, a charge of treason. "Nova, we could die today if they vote unanimously on this one charge for death. We are going to die." Trying to comfort her, Nova asked gently, When was the last time a woman was put to death for treason in Alarion? It's been hundreds of years, but it has happened, despaired Ebony. It is not our time to die, Nova said confidently. She gave a push of her strength, confidence, and sense of calm to Princess Ebony. She felt the tears she had been holding back from her eyes start to dry up. Lord Lyndon stood quietly as he watched Princess Ebony struggle for composure. When she had calmed down, he addressed her. Are there any more questions concerning the charges being brought before you today? Yes, she said, surprising Lord Lyndon. Was there no restitution for the other princes? Are we now giving away Alarian citizens to serve in foreign countries? Lord Lyndon looked like he could joke on his own spit. He stuttered. Lord Frieder jumped in to save the speechless Lord Lyndon. No, we do not give away citizens of Alarion as slaves. That is what you were trying to infer, weren't you? The lass was interviewed and did not object. She is leaving of her own free will, and she will remain a free person. She will simply be serving in a different castle in another country that we are currently at peace with. What about Prince Adrian of Cipher? What was he given? Princess Ebony demanded to know. Finally, King Liam spoke up. He knew she was stalling the calling of the vote on the charge of treason. He was given a promise. Wearily he commanded Lord Lyndon, have the verdicts read. He needed to get it all over with. Lord Lyndon asked Lord Giordano, will you read the verdicts of these charges that were voted upon by the council unanimously, based on the evidence brought before them? Princess Ebony was fuming. She had been reduced to the worth of a promise. Pay attention. Lord Giordano is about to announce the verdicts. You can complain about that later, scolded Nova. Lord Giordano stood across from Lord Lyndon next to the steps closest to the Queen, on the other side of Princess Ebony. He withdrew a smaller scroll from his pants pocket. It didn't roll out nearly as long as Lord Lyndon's scroll had. He turned and addressed Princess Ebony, on all charges presented before you, by the councilmen under the charge of King Liam, and the evidence that was presented to them, find you, Ebony Antoinette Firestorm, Princess of Alarion, guilty. Princess Ebony stood still as a statue, to the surprise of all in the room. Some thought that she would yell and scream. They expected a royal fit from the royal brat. They couldn't hear Nova instructing Princess Ebony to just concentrate on breathing in and breathing out. Nova held Princess Ebony in a near catatonic state. We will not die today, she promised. When there was no reaction from his daughter, King Liam spoke. All guilty verdicts presented by the councilmen are punishable by banishment, except for the charge of treason against Alarion. The charge of treason is punishable by banishment or death by beheading, depending on the judgment of the council. Each member must vote unanimously if the punishment of death is to be carried out. If the vote is not unanimous, the lesser sentence of banishment will be carried out. How does the council vote? Lord Lyndon looked at Lord Giordano. You may begin the vote. Lord Giordano nodded his head and began. I vote for death. The vote for death is noted. How do you vote, Lord Court? Lord Court, who stood in the middle between Lord Giordano and Lord Simpleton, stated loudly, I vote for death. Lord Simpleton voted for death, as did Lord Frieder, and Lord Idigard. Lord Giordano announced after Lord Idigard pronounced his judgment, let it be noted. It is 5 votes for death by beheading and 0 for banishment. How do you vote, Lord Lyndon? Lord Lyndon stood quietly now, but his face looked like he was at war. He was at war. He was at war with his dragon. He would start to speak and then his mouth would shut firmly. He kept opening and shutting his mouth. The frustration he was feeling was quite apparent. Princess Ebony felt as if she was going to faint. Nova was strangely quiet. Princess Ebony could barely feel her presence, but she kept concentrating on breathing in and breathing out. The opening and closing of his mouth drew her eyes to him. Princess Ebony watched in horror as Lord Lyndon kept trying to speak. What seemed like forever for both Princess Ebony and Lord Lyndon was actually only a few seconds. Lord Lyndon shouted, "Da, da, da, ba, ba, banishment." In shock, he placed his hand over his mouth. The word was spoken and could not be taken back. No audible vote could be retracted. That was the law of Alarion. Princess Ebony felt Nova's presence flooding back into her mind. Oh, now that we aren't going to die, you are back here with me, snapped Princess Ebony. Nova sighed. I am just as happy as you that we are not going to die. A look of relief flashed across the king's face. He hid it just as quickly as it had come. Prince Edwin looked disappointed, as did Davin. The queen continued staring at the wall, showing no emotion, while Elsie looked visibly relieved. The king ignored the struggle that he had witnessed Lord Lyndon put himself through. He did not care that it seemed as if something was wielding some kind of power over Lord Lyndon's dragon. He was just relieved that he was not going to have to carry out a sentence of death and have to arrange the beheading of his own daughter. Looking at his daughter, King Liam said, "Today, before the councilmen and the nobles of Ilarion, I strip you, Ebony Antoinette, Firestorm, Princess of Ilarion, of the royal title of Princess of Ilarion. You are hereby stripped of all privileges allowed to nobles. You will live under house arrest until you are married to the first single man who walks up to the castle, whether he is a prince, merchant, or a beggar. Tomorrow you will be dressed in clothing befitting your newfound status as the wife of a lower-class citizen of Ilarion. After that, if you are found in sight of Halua, the capital of Ilarion, by any guards or reported to and found by any of the guards, you will be immediately taken to the town square, where you will be flogged and subsequently hung. That is my decree, and it shall be written in the records of the kings." The king sat on his throne wearily. "Captain Geralt," he called, "escort the condemned to a chamber in one of the empty servant houses that has no window large enough that she might escape through it. She will stay there until an eligible man arrives at the gate, whomever he may be, and she is married to him.